Thanks for staying with us. So last week, the activities at the National Assembly caught the attention of people as many Nigerians watched their representatives debate and vote during the passage of the highly controversial Petroleum Industry Bill and also the Electoral Amendment Bill. Joining us on the show is Honorable Sergius Oguns, a lawyer and a prominent member of the House of Representatives. Welcome to the show, sir. Hello, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, good to have you on the show. So we have a lot to discuss with you this morning. Let's start with the Petroleum Industry Bill. I mean, people have been coming from all sides of the country. Some have agreed to the 3%. Others were insisting on the 5%. And it's been a case of working against the interests of the people in the south part of the country. And a lot of young people in that region have said that they're going to do everything to work against the government going ahead with this 3%. In your view, give us the nature of discussions that happened in the House that led to the approval of 3%. And is there a possibility that it will be reviewed?
Well, my take will be that the only way to go now is to go lobby the president and see if he's going to return it to the House. And that's not likely to happen, considering the people behind this 3%. What they told us then was that they ran the numbers. They ran the numbers and they think that is good enough. And the painful thing about this whole thing was we had a couple of retreats in Lagos. We came back to Abuja, we had sessions. Initially, the South were asking for 10% after the public hearing and the visit to the creeks. Even the chairman, even from the North, said then, from what they have seen, they will support 10%. And then when we came back, because we also saw the numbers that they ran, the South caucus said, okay, let's do 5%. And it was agreed upon. We did clause by clause consideration, and we adopted 5%. Till we went to the floor of the House and passed it in the House of Rep. We never heard of 3%. So we're surprised that the Senate passed 3%, and there was a conference, and they supposedly adopted 3%. So I don't know, like I said, all we can do is lobby the president, but they have also added another dimension that the gas has been fled from this region. The proceeds from it will no longer go to the government, but it will go to the host community. And one of the people from the Secretariat ran the figures again, the numbers, and said to me, over $300 million will come from the 3%, and over $400 million will come from the gas fled. If you add this together, it's going to be over $800 million. And that we just advise that we take that for now, and that hopefully going forward, we might be able to do something in the nearest future. So I don't know if that's going to be good enough, but let's see what happens.
All right, sir. So for me, whether it's the 2.5% or 3% that is going to be given to the host communities, over the years, we haven't really seen anything meaningful out of that amount of money, which largely depends on the host communities to be able to develop themselves. But because we are fighting for one Nigeria, is it possible that there is a modality created on how that money can be effectively used and monitored in that host community so that we see the benefits? Is this something we should discuss while we are talking about the percentages?
There's a trust fund set up to manage this fund. To say we haven't seen the money put in that region in the past, from 13% derivation to NDDC to Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, would be wrong, because the same people that set up these bodies have not allowed these bodies to function the way they should function. The NDDC is under the presidency. Why should that be? So you still have government directors working in NDDC that are not necessarily from the region. So it's a government, federal government body. I would have thought you will leave that to the governors of the oil-producing areas to nominate those that will chair and that will be the managing directors and all the other positions.
Okay.
They can sit down and draw up a program so that that can be, they can work that into their own programs. If NDDC is going to do XYZ program in my state, I will not have to duplicate it. But that's not the case. NDDC is under the presidency. Then you talk about the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs. That ministry should have been in the Niger Delta, not in Abuja. Go there and check the directors there. How many Southerners are there? I mean, South people. The contracts are being carted away elsewhere. Same thing with NDDC. So now we have a trust fund to manage this fund, and this fund will be managed by the people from the community. So that's a good place to start.
Right.
Because the 13% derivation goes to the state. But what we are saying in this bill, the host community funds would be applied in the host community. It might not be Uhuru, it might not, the magic might not happen overnight. It will mean that at least whatever comes in will be spent in the community.
All right, let me take a few more questions for you. Go ahead, Tokwe.
Okay, so 2 quick questions. First, I don't understand, and I feel I'm knowledgeable enough to understand, how does it work? If the House of Representatives passed a particular percentage and the Senate changes it, the Senate has more power than House of Representatives, but what else is the solution that can be done if the two houses do not agree? Because obviously the House of Representatives has something else in mind and the Senate has passed something else. How else can this be resolved? Because now you're saying we should appeal to the president without having to appeal to the president. What are the legal frameworks when the two House of Assembly don't agree on something?
There is a conference, usually when you have 2 bills like that passed by the chambers, and then when there are discrepancies, they set up a conference of equal numbers of both chambers, and they reconcile the differences. That's what happens. Then before the bill comes back to the House and you pass it and it goes for 3rd reading. So in this case, I think the House have done their bit. But let me correct you. The Senate doesn't have more power than the House of Rep.
Okay.
We are mimicking the American model. And if you look at that, the third person in the hierarchy in that country is the Speaker of the House of Representatives of Congress, as in America today is Nancy Pelosi. But they will tell you because the vice president in that country is the head of the Senate. That is why you don't have the Senate president there. But in the event that we disagree on anything, and we say, let's put it to vote, I'm sure you already know the answer. We are 360 in the House, while there are 109 in the Senate. Even if they vote 3 times, they are allowed to rig the election in their own favor and they vote 3 times, we will still defeat them. That is if we can muster, if we can get everybody to vote according to the ideals of the House.
Right. Let me go on a quick break, sir. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation with you. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have Honorable Sergius Oguns with us. Mariam had a question before the break. Go ahead, please.
You know, sometimes in fighting for something, you know, people will say, why don't you take what you can now? And then when you find yourself at least in a more comfortable position to fight for the rest. So recently, I think it was 5th of July, it was reported that the former governor of Akwa Ibom, so that's current board chairman, Mr. Akpabio, was saying that you should allow for the bill to pass, whether it's 2.5 or 3%, and make sure that bill is passed first. Then you are able to push for higher percentage going forward. What do you think? Do you think that's another way to look at it? Do you think that would work, or it's better to fight for what you want right now, no matter how long it takes?
I kind of agree with that because I am not just a lawmaker, I'm not just was not just a member of the committee. I am also a player in the industry. I'm going to go back to this same industry when I'm done serving my people in the house. And I live in the Niger Delta. You know, I'm from Edo State. I did business in Warri, Delta State, and in Port Harcourt before coming here. And I know how this PIB has affected the industry. From when it was first muted, the oil companies, the majors, pulled back because nobody will invest money and will not know the return. You will need to know, if you put the money, you need to know the fiscal, laws that will come up. So that has hindered a lot of investment. And as we would have heard lately, in the last 5 years, if we deduct to 2020, because not much happened, you will say in the last 4 years, over $78 billion being invested in Africa, in oil and gas. Only $3 billion came to Nigeria. And we are supposed to be the largest producer of crude oil in Nigeria. Why? Because of this same reason of investors not coming in. So I would have ordinarily adopted the position of Senator Akpabio. But the suspicion, or rather the challenge we have in this country, is the mutual suspicion. Now, some people are saying you have the NDDC, you have Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, you have the 30% derivation. Now we have given you 3%, go and manage it. Tomorrow they wake up and say, after all, if you crunch the figures, $800 million is enough money for those communities. Why are we even going to revisit this? After all, you accepted it. So my take would have been, well, if we can trust one another, let's go ahead and do this. That can give the investors confidence to come back and invest. And the boom will make money available for the nation and even for the host communities. So that would have been my advice. But it's just that the way things are done in this country, you say one thing today, government will wake up tomorrow and do a different thing entirely. And that's why we keep warning. You don't lie to your children when they are growing up.
Right.
Because if you lie to them, they will remember.
They will.
Tell us the truth, where you stand, and let us know if we have to come back to that discussion tomorrow. That discussion should still be on the table.
All right, I was going to move into the issue of the electoral process, but I'll do that in a second. I need clarity, because this projection that was given from gas flaring and from it's a projection from 3%. So the $800 million that they're saying that 400 or 300 will come from gas flaring and 400 will come from this 3%. It's a projection, and maybe it's not really tangible. Maybe that's a fear, that this figure might just not be exactly what they say it is. So what guarantee can the House give to the people in that region that, listen, this $800 million that we're projecting is a reality? Could that be an issue also for them?
Of course it will be. Well, it's not the House that's going to, if the House is going to give that guarantee, let the Senate that smuggled that in give the guarantee first. Just to also let you know, the day it was passed, I was not on the floor of the House because we staged the walkout, the minority caucus. And it was not listed in the other paper, but it was passed. So if I am adopting the advice of the Minister for Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Akpabio, to say, let's even start with this. The sense behind this will be when the oil majors come back and invest, and we have activities, we might even get far more than what we are projecting now. Right. But don't shove it down their throats. Engage with them, appeal to them, crunch the numbers. But the way I see that it's being done now is take it or leave it. I even heard some people out there were talking about what have they done with the agencies. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Don't even go there. Let's see how we're going to manage this. Oil is our mainstay. If anything happens in the creek tomorrow, this economy will be on its knees. So let's just appeal to them, crunch numbers, explain to them how it's going to work.
Okay.
If we do this and they have a buy-in, it will be win-win.
All right. Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll move on to the issue of electronic transmission. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So this issue of electronic transmission and the bill that is being reviewed in the House. Honorable, are you still there with us?
Yes, ma'am.
So we're a bit confused. We appreciate the fact that there was physical voting that happened in the House over voice voting. That for me was a good thing, where the senators voted and we were able to know who voted what. But there's a confusion over the fact that it seems that NCC is now the person or the organization to decide how we go ahead with the transmission of results. So if NCC says, oh, I have a network across the country, then we go ahead. Oh, I don't, I only have 20%. We can, why are we giving so much power to NCC based on that's part of the reports I read in the papers today. Do you think that we are whittling down the power of INEC by depending on NCC to let us know how we can go ahead with the electronic transmission?
Well, again, that's the travesty in this whole thing. We run away from the truth, and the truth will come back someday and haunt us in this country. We had public hearing. INEC came and said they were ready to transmit for electronic transmission. Then, because in certain quarters, there is this fear that they might not win the next election, and because they want to stay in power, they started manipulating this whole thing. How do you explain that the chairman in the Senate that recommended that INEC should be given the discretion to apply whatever works will get up on the floor of the Senate and vote against his own recommendation? And his explanation was that he got a superior explanation that you did not get when the entire stakeholders came, including NCC during the public hearing. The operators were all there. Nigerians were there, civil society were all there. You didn't get any superior advice before you put that recommendation forward. Then I'll quickly refer you to Senator Smart Adeyemi, who claimed that he won the election in Kogi, that it was when they moved the ballot papers, they were going to a collation center. That was when Senator Dino Melaye connived with INEC people. They stopped by the bush side and adjusted the figures. That was how Dino won. That same man on the floor of the Senate won the case eventually against Dino. Anyway, that's why he's there now. Will vote against transmission of votes electronically. It doesn't make any sense. It's not in this part of the world that people reason like that. If your child reasons like that, you almost disown the child. It doesn't make any sense. Now, because even the paper backup will still be there. You transmit electronically, the paper backup will still be there. So what is the fear? I don't understand. NCC sent somebody who could not substantiate anything. The Minister of Communication and Digital Economy is supposed to be the head of NCC. He wasn't available. The Executive Vice President and CEO of NCC was not available. They sent supposedly a high official from their establishment who didn't know the difference between broadband and bandwidth, who didn't know the difference between the fact that you have to transmit results through 2G and 3G, and even LGE. But what we know that is required is just a text message. They type the name and the party, and they forward. We did that in Edo 2020. I was a party to that. I saw how it was transmitted. But the truth is, INEC actually have been doing this, but they just want the legal teeth, the legal backup to do that. In my election in 2015, in my village that is very remote, my result was transmitted. I saw the lady typing it. She told me she had issues with she had a challenge with the transmission, that it will not go because of network. But as we were there talking, this is a world coalition, not local government. As we were talking, the thing went. My quarrel with her was, why did you not show me what you are sending? When you had issues, you told me we're in the coalition center together. But she said she didn't think about it, but it just went. And that was okay. 2015, I'm talking about 2015.
All right, let me
talk about hacking server that INEC started denying that they didn't use the server.
Right, okay,
but
let me get a few more questions in for you.
Budgeted for it.
So it seems to me that we have capacity to do this electronic transmission. Now, why are people fighting against it? There are, conspiracy theories that because, certain people want to be able to have the power to do the election rigging, and that is why it seems like there is a fight against this electronic transmission. But from this analogy, it seems like we have the capacity. Why isn't the House pushing that we have this passed as a bill since we have the capacity? Why isn't everybody talking about it?
That's the unfortunate thing. That is why the youths of this nation should rise up. If we really agree that our votes count, if they believe, the politicians, including myself, believe that our votes count, they will do the right thing. The agencies saddled with the responsibility in Section 78 of the Constitution came out clearly to say we have the capacity to do it. That is why I even took you back to 2015. They have been test running this. Osun 2018 governorship election. They did that.
Wow.
That election was a bit difficult for.
But you must agree, sir, you must agree that Senator Ndume, who was objecting to this, he specifically said there are towns in certain parts of the north that don't have network at all. So you can speak from your own community because that's your constituency. But should we then not consider the other parts of this country that may not have transmitters at all?
That's not true. That's not correct. INEC said, even during the public hearing, their devices will catch any network around there. INEC said that. One of my colleagues from Borno said that there's no network in his village, that the bandits or the Boko Haram blew the towers, but that they get orange from Chad, orange network from Chad.
But they can't.
But that is network. And INEC already answered this, that they have devices that will catch any available network anywhere. In the 8th Assembly, I went for an oversight in Cross River State. We were in Bakassi. And then what came into my phone started roaming orange. When I'm not able to take a call, the voice message, they are speaking French. Somebody called me to say, where are you? I say, I'm in Calabar. But your phone, they are speaking French. I said, because they are roaming. The phone is roaming itself. So these guys, okay, now there's a senator you heard on the floor. They said there's no network in his village. This was a former governor from 1999 to 2007. No, not even that. He claimed there's no network, but it came out in the news now that the NYSC camp in that state is in his village. He moved it there because, and then they had network there before they got network in the state capital. So why? Like I said, we tell our children not to lie.
And
we get up on the floor of the House, on the Senate, and we are lying to the whole world. And our children are watching this. Is there not a contradiction? Are we not setting up crisis for these young ones? Or because it's politically expedient to lie?
All right, let me get a few more questions here for you, sir.
As a nation.
Go ahead, Mariam.
There's something I find sad. Sometimes we tend to use the in the north so that people will not question it too much or touch it like, well, in the north. So, you mentioned that this is time for youth to stand up and demand for what they want. And many times we have seen youths ask of their representatives. We've talked about recalling representatives. We've insisted you hear their voices on the papers of the newspaper, on social media, and we don't get, it just doesn't reflect at the National Assembly. For me, this is very important. Electronic transmission is important. What would a youth now sitting down in their villages in the north, who can watch TV, who are making calls and doing all sorts of things on networks, what can that person do today or with a group of other youth in their communities to make sure that this bill is passed so that even their areas will get electronic transmission during the election?
Let them begin to talk to their leaders. The youth can organize themselves. They are everywhere, and they have the numbers. If they use this to send a strong message to the politicians, they are going to ignore them most likely. But by the time they vote them out, because even if you say you don't want to transmit electronically, and you go ahead and do manual and write whatever figures you want to write, who are those that score the ballot papers? It's the same youth.
Yes.
Now, in the last election in 2019, Imo State, they killed people. We lost one of our colleagues in Oyo. One of my colleagues said he was almost killed in Cross River. because of the collation center wahala. People go there to cause all manner of things. People are tampering with figures. But when you transmit from the world,
Right.
anybody going to the collation center and the FGA is just wasting his time because that data is already in the server in the headquarters and in the state capital. That's how it works. But people that do not want us to move forward in this country,
All right, let me take
for
this.
fear of remaining in power or for fear of being voted out.
Let me take
are
this
the ones
call
doing
from
this. But what
Yola.
I'm saying, the youth can rise up, let them know they have the strength, and vote them out. Then they will have a rethink.
Let me
It's
take
not
this
their
call from
father's
Yola,
farm.
sir, so that
It's
we
not-
can get our viewers in. Aminu, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, the gentleman in your studio
Yes.
is only trying to be emotional for no reason.
Okay.
Every politician, number one purpose for him to be in the election is to win. So we must first and foremost understand that we are people, we must be honest to ourselves.
Okay.
Whether it is electronic, whether it is paper, whether it is anything, we should first and foremost be honest. Let's just be honest.
Okay.
The gentleman is saying the youth should rise up. Rise up for what? We should rise up for all honesty. That is the number one thing. That is what is lacking in us. We don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe in our system. And everybody is just trying to create emotion where there is none.
Aminu, let me ask you what your position is. So do you agree that we should have electronic transmission, or do you feel that there are places in certain parts of the country, like the north, that don't have transmission access? In Yola, do you even have in Yola?
See, Mrs. Morayo,
Yes,
let
sir.
me just tell you, whether it is electronic, I am for the best. If electronic is the best, if it is electronic that is the best for us to get what we want, so be it. But first and foremost, is electronic not exposed to challenges? It is. Who is to define that we are capable of doing it? Is it INEC?
Yes.
Is it NCC? Who is capable of deciding? Is it the network provider? So these are fundamental questions. They shouldn't drive us to emotions.
Yeah. Thank you, Aminu. Let me come to the Honorable based on what Aminu is saying, because what I'm hearing Aminu is saying that even if we agree on electronic, there are issues. It could be hacked. There are technical issues that could happen. So yes, we're saying blankets, just do transmission, but he's also saying it's also not infallible in different ways. Do you agree, Honorable? Then I'll come to Mariam. Oh, yeah.
You vote with a paper. Your ballot paper is a paper that you put in the ballot box. Nobody is saying that we are going to discard that.
Okay.
So that one is still a document that is a backup.
Right.
Even if you have the server, what about the paper? Are they going to destroy the paper? The paper is still there. So the bill is not saying you should trash the manual and go ahead with the electronic. Both of them will be there.
Right.
So just to answer Aminu, I don't know what the sentiment or emotion is here. The people that should know INEC came out and say they have the capacity, the capability to do this. If you are talking about hacking, don't you all have account numbers? Are you scared that they will hack your account number, your bank will go bankrupt, and NDIC will give you 50K, give you 50,000? You still have money in the bank. The flights you take, there are computers. Pilots are complaining that the computers are taking charge. They are not allowing them to use their discretions. But do you not still fly? You still fly, don't you?
Right.
So when people are talking about hacking, I don't understand.
Okay.
Everything we do today. Okay, MTN, they have your data. Glow, the telcos, they have your data. Why is it not being hacked every day? Look at what's up. Everything about your life is there.
Point taken. Let me get a few more. I have a lot of questions for you. Go ahead, Tokwe.
Okay, sir, please, my worry is, it's obvious that you have the sentiment of this should be the case. There should be electronic voting. And you're feeling like your voice isn't heard because you're in the minority on the floors of the National Assembly. But the National Assembly has constituted a process for this thing to take place. And what would be your line of action? You already said that we should go out, we should vote and vote opposition, but whatever you say will be counted because you're a PDP person and you are against the APC, generally. how can we non-partisan, on a non-partisan level, deal with this situation where it won't be is APC or PDP, number one. Number two, is there a way we can expunge the NCC part of this bill?
NCC don't even have a role to play in this. Because we budget billions for INEC to run election. They have a server, they have a card reader, the smart card readers that has everything to take this. And they have told us that much. The Constitution gives them power to do this. I don't know why we're even debating this. Look at the gentleman that was sent from NCC. He's giving us 2018 data. This is NCC. That out of 119,000 polling units, they were not able to cover 8,000 polling units. Well, today we have 176,846 polling units with the new units that are created. But that does not mean that you have created new units in the desert or in the forest. Basically, these are co-joints, co-location units. Like in my place, we have one unit in my polling unit in the village. Now we have two. So it doesn't mean that they have not created one in the forest. It's still about the same area. But the same NCC has the information that they have covered, can cover 90% of the country. And there is a fund called Universal Service Provision Fund. That fund is 2.5% of the annual operating levy of the telcos, of the telecommunication companies. 1% of that fund is spent on this USPF.
Right.
What is USPF for? To cover areas that are unserved and underserved, which means every community in this country should have coverage.
Right.
So that
let me take this call from Joss. He's been holding for a while. Sorry. Good morning, sir. Are you there? Oh, I'm so sorry. Lost that call. I do apologize. We're holding for a long time. Yes, Mariam.
Yes, I just wanted to say something that, for us regular Nigerians, I know we have, Mr. Sergius on, but for us regular Nigerians, when we have things like this, that is pushing for better development and things to be done better for us, let's take away sentiments of religion, ethnicity, party, put that aside. Electronic transmission will have its weaknesses, just as the paper one has its weaknesses, and so much more. And we've seen how that thing has affected our electioneering over the years, and this is a better option. Instead, what we should be talking about is, how is it better? Isn't INEC capable, or doesn't INEC have the authority to tell us if they can or cannot? They've been running elections in our country since democracy. Why are we finding INEC is a body? Why are we finding it hard to believe INEC? And then we're now pitting each other against party lines. This is important development for every Nigerian in the south or in the north. Is it not better to know that the vote you put in is counted? That's all we're saying. We just want to make sure that when I put my vote, it is counted. That's all I want to say.
Is it a question? Oh, it's a comment. Go
ahead.
Yeah,
it's a comment. So, I mean, he could say something about it.
So I'm thinking we have just short a few more minutes, but I wanted to quickly talk about the campaign expenses that has been increased, for presidential elections, governorship elections. I think for the presidential, they did 1 billion to 15 billion. And a lot of people are saying that this is going to further disenfranchise regular Nigerians who really want to serve. What is your take about that?
Is the hypocrisy. We live a lie in this country. There is no presidential election that you will fund even with 15 billion. Let's just run the numbers. Those that should know told us in Edo State that they brought some couple of days before the election in Edo State, the governorship that happened last year. They brought 5 billion with a plane into Edo State. Then on the eve of the election, they brought another 3 billion with a helicopter. The party that brought that is just an attempt to rig the election. But I was telling a member of that party who should also know. He said to me, we even had far more than that number, that amount of money on ground before we asked for reinforcement. But yes, they lost the election. If Edo State, to lose Edo State, you expended over 15 billion. How much are you now going to spend for presidential election? Ask, let them tell you the truth. In Lagos, to get Lagos, I'm sure PDP in 2015 spent over 15 billion in Lagos alone.
Jeez.
Those that took Lagos outspent PDP to retain Lagos. So why are we lying to ourselves? Let's be honest for once. The politicians know this. Call the National Party chairman, let them tell you the truth. Now we saw the NCC guy on oath in the National Assembly on the floor of the House of Reps, lying through his teeth. On oath. Should such a guy not be charged today? Look, I am very sick of this system, and that's the truth. I am a businessman, and I'm thinking of going back to my business. Let's live the life of these people. They will lie and go and do confession, but there's God watching all of us.
All right, we
This
have
is
to
not
wrap up on
sentiment,
that.
this is no emotion. My life doesn't depend on politics, but we should call these people to order because they are ruining the future of our children.
Okay.
This is the only country we have.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Oguns. Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning. There's a lot of talking points on this, but we have to wrap up at this point. We've been speaking with Honorable Sergius Oguns, a lawyer and a prominent member of the House of Assembly. That's all we can take on the show today. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.